community and these lands. And next we have the mission statement. The Franklin-McKinley School District will ensure all 8th grade student graduates have the skills and knowledge to be ready for a college preparatory curriculum in high school. They all will have the ability to pursue a program preparing them for university and/or careers and lifelong learning. Next on the agenda, 3.02 is the flag salute, and we are honored to have Ramblewood School here to conduct the flag salute. So it's all yours now.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please stand and remove your hats for the presentation of the colors? Color guard advance. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prepare to post the colors. Post the colors. Color guard dismiss. Thank you. Please be seated. My name is Jay Sibia. My mom and sister are here. I'm in 6th grade at Ramblewood Elementary.
My name is Hannah. I'm here with my dad. I'm in 4th grade and I go to Ramblewood Elementary School.
My name is Vincent. I'm here with my mom, my sister, and my grandma, and I'm in 6th grade, and I am and I go to Ramblewood Elementary.
My name is Harrison, and I am in 4th grade, and my mom and dad and brother are here, and I go to Ramblewood. My name is Caitlin. I'm here with my mom tonight, and I'm in 6th grade at Ramblewood Elementary.
Okay, we'll move on. Before we move on, our board president, Tan Tran, was unable to make it this evening, which is the reason why the vice president is facilitating the meeting tonight. Okay, item 3.03, approve, disapprove additions to the agenda. Seeing none. Item 3.04, approve, disapprove order of the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on. Item 3.05, report of action taken in closed session.
Yes, the board unanimously approved the closed session minutes for September 13th, 2022. There are no other actions to report.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. Item number 4, all communications. Members of the public may address the board on any issue within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board or agenda items. Members of the public may also address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with board bylaw 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each, unless otherwise stipulated. No action can be taken on any agenda items at this time. Questions may be referred to the administration or put on a future agenda. Do we have anybody who would like to make comments? I believe we have one person. And also please introduce yourself.
Yes, good evening. I'm FMEA President Scott Schulemson. Nice to see you all. I'm just going to speak very briefly. I'm certainly in support of the action item resolutions. We have recognizing second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day, and also want to lend my support to the resolution in support of Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer History Month, as well as Disability Awareness Month. School Administrator Week is well earned as well. I also want to focus primarily on the need that this district has, as I think you probably know, for more support right now. It's a challenge all around this county and this country, finding quality individuals, and at times any individual that can work in our schools and support our students and our faculty. It is very challenging in a lot of our classrooms right now, especially those that do demand extra support. In some of our more challenging classrooms, we are short paras and we are short BIs. And this has been an issue for off and on for years. I'm hopeful that the contract with Swing will ideally aid in some of the filling of those gaps, and we can hopefully get some more sub paras in. But things really are dire in a lot of our classrooms. I don't think there's any easy solutions, but I certainly want to make sure this issue is really on the forefront of everyone's minds right now, because we have a lot of classrooms that are really struggling. And the problem is it can snowball because we have teachers who burn out if they don't have enough support, and then they leave. And then we have what was a problem turns into a catastrophe. So again, no easy answers here, but certainly I want to make sure this is front and center on everyone's radar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Since I see no other public requests for or communications, we will move on. Item 5.01, public hearing on sufficiency or insufficiency of materials. Amy.
Thank you. Good evening. California Education Code 60119 requires districts to hold a public hearing regarding the sufficiency of instructional materials and textbooks to ensure that adopted materials are consistent with state adopted standards and available to all students. I'm here to report that we have successfully provided materials, all state and board adopted materials to our students. And I thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Amy. And with that stated, we will now open the meeting to a public hearing. Are there any comments from the public regarding this agenda item? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. And so we'll move on to the next item under safety update 5.02. And Jason.
Good evening, board members. Increasing safety measures throughout the district continues to be an extremely important goal for the district, especially in light of recent tragic events that have occurred in our nation over the past year, some of which have happened in school. This will be a joint presentation tonight, including myself, Vanessa Burback, manager for maintenance department, myself and Superintendent Cruz. And we also have a couple of other members within Business Services Department that are here to help answer any questions that you may have on the items presented tonight. Okay. The entire district team has been working extremely hard to improve the safety measures within our school sites as well as the district office. This includes obtaining input from community members, staff members, other stakeholders, as well as discussions with San Jose PD, the fire department, and various consultants. Hopefully tonight you will get a sense of that and our ongoing efforts to improve conditions at each of our school sites. With that said, I'd like to turn it over to Vanessa Burback, our manager for maintenance, to discuss what we have done in relation to Columbine logs.
Good evening. Over what does that request on as you know, the boards and the district's priority is safety for all students, not just students, but also staff. With that being said, we had set aside a budget to secure the campuses. With that, we had updated all the locks throughout the district. All classrooms are able to be locked from inside the classroom. And most of the admin offices, if not all, have a safety feature that locks down at with a panic button. Staff can now, before, staff were not able to lock the doors unless they go outside of their classroom to lock. But now they're capable of doing that, locking from the inside itself. This project actually lasted a little over 3 years, simply because, as you know, in 2020, we were shut down due to COVID. And with that, that delayed us by 2.5 years. This original project was projected to last roughly 3 to 6 months at the latest. But unfortunately, with the COVID shutdown, that also led to projects that were created to prepare us to come back in person. And that delayed drastically the timeline of how this is to be finished. This took over $500,000, over nearly $500,000 to complete, with hardware and also labor. We were lucky enough to have in-house complete this project. If not, it would have been well over $1 million just to complete this alone, if we were to contract that out. And as you can see in the pictures and the bullet points, we do have some classrooms that do have directional signs, so they are aware which direction is in a lock position and which one is allows them to go freely in and out. So there's no confusion as to, oh my gosh, once we're in lockdown or in shelter in place, am I secure? And students are able to see this as well. With as I mentioned earlier, we do have the feature of the remote locking down in case of an emergency. Front office staff can lock themselves, with the push of a button. We are also going to do that at the district office as well. We have a lot of neighbors nearby in the creek, as well as other areas where we have activities, police activities coming by. Should that happen in the future, we're already in the process right now of getting proposals to obtain all exit doors to be able to lock down at a push of a button at multiple locations, one being in the front of the lobby, one being in the back by the business office, and potentially a third location, which in case, the first two are not available at their desk. We do have an issue that has come across us, and that is the barricading devices at the sites with the intruder on campus and possible shooter on site. We do have some creative ways teachers have used and staff have used to lock themselves down in the past. We are looking at ways to securely lock down inside the classrooms other than such a deadbolt, because deadbolts are not allowed per fire code. So we're looking at the push button but at least somehow we still provide egress in case of an emergency and the teacher is passed out or the staff is passed out. Students can still leave the classroom itself. Magnets is also another suggestion, another idea that we've come up with, that we've come across, that was presented to us, that the magnet can be placed on the door itself and just holds the door propped ajar, but not necessarily completely open. And any student, any staff member can remove the lock and they are immediately in lockdown mode. The doors are locked. Something to consider in the upcoming months is replacing the inside key with thumb turn cylinders. But we're looking into it right now simply because we have to review whether or not it is ADA compliant. But again, this is something that we look into as a possibility to further secure the classrooms and the campuses. Other consideration also is the privacy screens for each of the windows on the doors or the windows that the classrooms have itself. With that said, moving on with security, I will lead this with Veronica on, or Jason.
I realize Veronica is doing us a huge favor coming back out of retirement, so I'll try to do the presentation and then we'll help out with the Q&A afterward. One of the things I just wanted to add, staff and are looking at ways to keep the classrooms as secure as possible during an incident. And it is definitely frustrating for administration and for staff that a lot of the tools that we're looking at are not compliant. So usually when we have fire department come in to do inspections, they tell us that some of these creative tools have to be removed. We're definitely continuing to look at options. As it relates to the security cameras, as the board knows, we added 137 cameras district-wide, including all school sites as well as the district office, with a focus on our perimeters so that we can get a video recording of anyone entering or exiting our buildings in an unauthorized fashion or during an incident. And we can give that information to the police as needed. The cameras can also capture license plates in case a vehicle is suspected of being being involved in an incident, so we can give that information to the police department as needed. The software is web-based and so allows us to view the videos from anywhere, but the information is ours and we contain that information and it cannot be disseminated without our permission. The software includes facial recognition software. So for example, if you take a picture of one particular person, you can use that picture with the program to analyze where else that individual has been throughout our district as long as they've been picked up by. The video is kept for a total of 30 days so that in case the incident is not reported immediately, we can have a 30-day window to review video, provide that to San Jose PD or any other agencies we work with to investigate it. This is essentially phase 1 of the project. We hope that in phase 2, we can install additional cameras in common areas and hallways, not necessarily in classrooms. But if that is a idea that sites want to explore, we obviously need to consult with the principal, the site, as well as the teacher before cameras can be inside a classroom. There's also consideration of FERPA. So we need to make sure that any type of cameras that are used in the classroom are in ed code. To ensure the high quality of the video that's being recorded, we also added additional security lights to various areas throughout the district office and other school sites to make sure that the video quality is sufficient to identify the individual caught on camera. We have also added signage to all locations that have cameras added. Typically, they are included at the front of the building as well as on pedestrian gates so that individuals are aware that the area is under surveillance. We've also communicated this to staff and to parents through various means, typically via email. In addition, we've also created board policy and AR regulation, to talk about how the camera should be appropriately utilized throughout the school year. Make sure that it is used appropriately, not privacy. I think that's pretty much it as it relates to the cameras. I'm going to move on to the next slide. As it relates to our fencing projects, we've added web fencing to many of our school sites, especially those areas that are facing the public, that are in the front, to add additional protection for our students, especially our young ones. As you can see here in the screen, there's an example of the web fencing at Kennedy, front of their kinder area. We're also doing that with all of our sites. We have to actually reestablish some fencing at Franklin, where it had been removed for a short period of time, and we're putting that back up, as well as addressing Meadows in their kinder area. We've also finally started working on the Stonegate fencing that splits the field area, the grass area of Stonegate from the city state park. We've actually put up new cyclone fencing with slats, to provide additional privacy for our students and avoid any additional interactions between students and those who are using the city skate park during the school day. Next, we're always looking for opportunities to improve our knowledge as it relates to threat assessment. So October 13th and 14th, Santa Clara County Office of Education is putting together a comprehensive school threat assessment guideline. This is a training session that will be put on all day. It's either go to the 13th or the 14th for the actual presentation. Threat assessment includes the identification, assessment, and management of threats with the goal of resolving conflicts or problems before they escalate into violence. Unfortunately, the presentation is going to be well received, and they've limited the number of participants to 5 per district. Again, the list of attendants or the intended audience for this particular training are administrators, DBOs, superintendents, assistant soups, school counselors, school psychologists, social workers, emergency safety managers, law enforcement, and nurses. In addition, Vanessa Burback also attended a training today called the CARE event on student safety, hosted by Santa Clara County School Insurance Group. CARE stands for Champions of Childhood Anti-Assault Response and Education. We plan to sit down as a group to debrief on what was discussed during this training today. But essentially it focused on training students to identify signs of assault and focus on raising awareness, and allowing them the opportunity to report anonymously. As you know, on our website, on our homepage, we have an anonymous way for people to report bullying incidents and other incidences that are occurring on their school site. This training also focused on adding additional signage to raise awareness and provide ways to report. And lastly, focus on updating board policies and regulations as it relates to personnel boundaries. That being said, the last slide here is relating to safety drills, and I'm going to turn this over to our superintendent, Mr. Cruz.
Yes, one of the things that has been learned through examining the situations that have happened throughout the nation has been the ability for sites to be ready. For those of us that have gone to schools, and when the ground shakes, it's kind of drilled into us, dug and covered. And that's because we drill. And so it's unfortunate that we have to also drill around, hide, run, and defend. So over the last couple of years, we've mandated schools to conduct at minimum 2 drills, hide, run, defend drills at schools. And so what we're going to be doing this year that is new is that a member of cabinet will be attending the drills, walk with the principals as we assess the readiness of our schools in responding to a threat. And so this week, we're already starting with a couple. And so part of our responsibility as cabinet is to assess with the principals our readiness and our gaps and what areas we need to still provide additional support, additional training in how we respond to a potential lockdown. So part of our responsibility is to come back and then develop any action plans that we may need by site based on those drills. So those are things that we are adding to the level of readiness that we want to have as a result of the tragedies that are happening across.
So that's the end of the presentation, and I open it up to questions you may have.
Board members, any questions or comments? Mona?
Thank you. I did have a question. First, on barricade devices. I know that we get, one message from E and then another message from the fire department, but I'm just wondering in terms of, an approximate timeline, a way that we can have a process, right? Because at this point, we're leaving secondary barricade devices or systems up to each individual staff member or teacher. And so that can look very different. And also in terms of the safety of those secondary devices, right? I've seen everything from like plywood pieces being put up to extra wires being, I've done it myself, guilty, as a teacher, because the priority again is student safety. So what does the timeline look like around this? Who are the stakeholders we're engaging, and what are the next steps so that there can be consistent?
Well, in terms of getting additional information, we've talked to various companies, Dora Data, Knowledge Saves Lives, School Insurance Group, to get information. We definitely need to revisit this based on new information that we received from San Jose PD and San Jose Fire Department. We look to have an answer that we can bring towards cabinet, hopefully within a couple of months, until possible secondary devices. But this is a very, very challenging issue because a lot of the secondary devices are not compliant. Some can be too high, trying to barricade the arm that would open the door. And obviously that won't work because the student has to do that when the teacher is incapacitated, or if the person in the classroom would be able to do it, they're bound. That would make it difficult for the individual to get out in case of an emergency of a fire or something like that. So it's a very, very challenging area for us to explore. We're hoping to have a couple of options that we can move forward with once. The biggest, as we talked about earlier, magnets are probably the easiest one to do. If you want to keep your doors locked all the times, having a magnet inside the door that keeps it slightly ajar doesn't ruin the air quality in the room, but also provides a quick method to lock a door, and anyone can pull a magnet off in an emergency. It doesn't create a lot of thought process. That might be the easiest secondary mechanism. We're also looking at said before, the thumb knob solution, push button solutions as well. The thumb solution does have its risks because there does appear to be an ADA requirement that prevents us from using the thumb locks. So we're going to continue to explore that one. There's also the electronic panic button that we can explore. We already have it in many of our offices. The question is, we actually put this in a classroom as well. So button that locks down. But again, we're going to try to look at this in the next couple of months to come up with some possible.
I could just add, even with those, the recommendation is that we still have a immediate barricade and an interior barricade, because those devices could fail And therefore, the most effective way is to create barriers upon barriers. So we wouldn't want the staff to feel that because we have a secondary mechanism that then now they don't necessarily have to barricade and create an interior barricade. So so that's why even without that, we're drilling around the ability to create a media barricaded at the door and then a barricade within the classroom or the space wherever they're at. So we will continue to explore and we'll try and get the solution that will get us in the least amount of trouble with the fire department, because I don't think that any of the solutions that are out there, the fire department would sign off. But at the end of the day, we got to keep our.
And we hope that a lot of the information that we'll gain from the CARE training that Vanessa attended, as well as the future threat assessment.
I appreciate that. There's enough that our staff are about and can about right now. This shouldn't be something else that they're trying to figure out, what secondary negating that step. But what are the other steps that district takes so that consistent at secondary, aspect that we have the Columbine law, huge, initial practice and step. But I think thank you for working on that and, definitely trying to expedite as quickly as we can, right? Because it's like every day that passes, well, we feel that urgency and we don't know what's going to want to be prepared with all the resource supports we. The other question I had was in terms of the safety drills. I'm curious, I know part was the practice with orders. And how is that being?
No, that's the exact same sequence. And we have some of the schools have had the resource officers come and do the presentations, trainings. We have in order to the flip charts that sort of have that and so that each classroom has those as well. And the school principals are training the staff prior to the drill in terms of what does it mean to hide, run, and defend. And there's a video that also is out there as was put on by Townsend Police Department, but there's a couple others that we found, and so the principals were sharing those resources to better suit their staff's needs in terms of how to prepare for it. So all that training is provided by the principal and or the Townsend Police Department.
Hide, run, or run, hide? Because I want to make sure we're using the common language.
Hide, run, defend.
It is hide first.
Yes. Yeah, you hide first, and if you are able to run and escape, you can do that. Then if you have to defend yourself, then.
Last question I had was cameras, and the next step being considerations, especially the language that we know exists in ed code when it comes to reporting side class.
Yeah, so as I said before, the main goal is to work on common areas always. But obviously the considerations are talking with staff, principal, and the staff at the site, see where the best location would be for the cameras. We did get initial input from site administrators in the past. We want to revisit that to make sure that that's still current assessment from the site standpoint. Again, we'll also consult with SIG to see if there's any standard that we should consider as well in placing the cameras. We had a very good consulting group come in to talk about location of cameras, how they could be considered. So we'll go through that process again to make sure that at the end of the day, we're doing something that's going to protect people and not create an additional challenge, privacy, or in teaching students.
Board members, any other questions? George?
I just want to say thank you to all of you for presentation tonight. And you had mentioned that there will be two training dates, the 13th and the 14th.
Correct.
Who will be doing the training for those two days?
So it's being hosted by Santa Clara County Office of Education.
Right.
As far as the presenters go, I don't have a list of the actual presenters,
Mm.
but the COE is putting on the training for us. Learn more about testing.
And that's an all day.
And it's an all day from 8:30 to 5.
Thank you.
I know, you have any?
Yes, thank you. This is a wonderful presentation. I know that, there's a little bit of other things besides active shooter that's being wrapped up in the presentation, like earthquakes and fire drills. And I would just offer, at some point, we also want to kind of include traffic safety. There's throughout the years, there's tragedies, of people hitting pedestrians and whatnot, and whatever we can do to train students on how to, protect themselves the best they can, how to advise parents, just continually push that message out because, it seems like that's equally as tragic and something that we can hopefully keep on the forefront of people's minds as well.
Yeah, agreed. A lot of it's related to communication. Not only with parents who are dropping the kids off to school or picking them up at the end of the day, but also with other school sites that share spaces with us, charter schools, other locations that are nearby. Some of the events that they might have might create some challenges with traffic. A lot of communication has to be being administrated.
Okay, and then I just have one last question regarding the camera system.
Mhm.
And you said it was web-based, so you can access it on your cell phone?
You can access it on your cell phone or computer. You don't have to be
Computer?
within a school
Okay.
site. You could be from home.
Okay,
Yeah.
so who's going to have access to that? Are the principals? How many people are going to have access to it? And added on to that is what protections are you to prevent hacking?
So in terms of access, principals have access to it. All cabinet members have access to it. IT has access to the camera as well. Obviously, it's all embedded within our current system to avoid hacking, but I don't want to speak out of turn. So I don't know if you want to talk about all the controls we have.
Will each user have their own password then?
Yeah, so when they log in with their email address, right? Email and password. Not set up yet, but what we're looking into is two-form authentication. So once they log in with their email and password, it'll send them just like the bank, a 6-digit code to their phone or their email, and then they'll have to put that in. So not only will it be email and password, it'll also be a code as well.
And will there be like going to set up like a set of guidelines, parameters, supposed to be clear on how that's going to be used?
So we've already had trainings with all the principals. Some principals are new, so they might need to get trained again. And we also provided them a copy of the board policies as it relates to the use of the cameras. And of course, we can retrain or train again as needed.
All right. Well, thank you and Vanessa very much for the presentation.
And board vice president, I'd like to make a correction. Board member may want to heard I was correct. Is current practices run, hide.
And so our staff and the teachers are
That's
trained that way.
That's the information that is sent out to the principals. Run, hide.
Not hide them. Okay. Thank you for the correction. Okay, we will move on to item 5.03, update on completed projects and review the board's priority for current and future project. Again, Jake.
The main goal tonight is to review our priority list and determine if the new proposed list is appropriate. The big ask tonight is really to look at reallocating bond dollars from Communications Hill to other projects. This presentation tonight will be a joint effort between district staff and consultants. I will start off with a quick overview, and then Mike Bowers will go through the details of each of the projects. But of course, if you have any questions, the team is here to help answer those questions. Keep in mind that we have identified over $142 million worth of need for the district. So we will need to go out for a new bond in the future. We will bring that request to go out for a new bond in the future for board meeting. That being said, we have approximately $21.6 million on hand to keep our projects moving forward. And we have the ability to issue additional bonds to raise another $53 million for future bond projects. We've also received another $5.2 million in state modernization funds for projects that we've completed in the past. This gives us almost $80 million to address newly updated prioritization lists and pay off projects that we've recently completed. Again, the challenge tonight is looking at the $63 million that are earmarked for Communications Hill. We are suggesting to reallocate at least 25 million of those dollars from Communications Hill to other projects so we can get through at least the top 10 items on our new priority list and allow some price escalation to be. We also want feedback on the list of items that we're sharing tonight and if certain items need to be moved. The easiest way to do this is maybe to record from each of you your particular order of the items that are presented tonight. And we can average the results and use that as our new priority. On slides 4 and on slides 5, it details out the previous priority list and denotes which ones have been completed or substantially completed. Some of the projects were not completed due to delays with DSA, limited manpower to push more projects through at this time. However, priority lists are not set up to say that we're going to get this done in the next year. It just gives us direction on which projects we need to prioritize and try to get done as quickly as possible. In addition to the items listed here, I've also included in the appendix various projects that have been completed using Measure H, Measure R, Prop 39, and other large maintenance projects throughout the district. Since we had a recent facilities tour with the board members, I felt it prudent to just focus on the priority list for tonight. So here on page 7 is the current proposed facility projects listed. Again, Communications Hill takes $63 million of our remaining 80 million that's left. So right now we would be able to fund the next 4 items, almost all of the 4 items. Item number 4 would probably have to be partially funded based on the funds that raised currently have in hand. And so what we're suggesting and what we're requesting is to reallocate some of that $63 million to the remaining items on this list from 5 to 10, so that we can keep the projects moving and improve our facilities throughout our district. The next page are additional projects that we have identified, all add up to the 142 million of need has been expressed earlier. I'll just point out that we did change this slide 7 slightly so that it's a little bit clearer of like what is going to be funded with the current dollars that we have versus what we're asking to reallocate, basically taking away some monies from Communications Hill to. With that being said, there are no questions. I was going to have Mike Bowers from SFA, architect firm, go over each of the items that are listed in the projected proposed facilities project list. And then from there, we can do a question.
Good evening, everyone. The first 4 items on the list are actually from the previous priority list. So those are ones that are still funded and going through. The Los Arboles covered walkway system, we have had that evaluated structurally. So we're aware of what needs to change and what needs to occur, where some of the failures are. That project will start going forward. The McKinley admin redesign, we're proposing complete reconfiguration of the existing admin lobby, staff lounge, the copy room area, that whole front space to make it flow better. Currently, very well. It doesn't have a very secure one point of exit, the fence. It still is that way. But in all the other sites, you have to pass somebody, which in this case. So that'll be going forward. And then continued playground and parking lot renovations. Something that was designed for all of the campuses or through the last several years. Just completed 2 this past summer. Gonna do 2 or 3 more this coming summer. It's just gonna be an ongoing thing based on a priority list of site. As for projects we're looking to have reallocated, TCA has identified that they need 2 more additional portables on the YB campus. Meadows is in need of some TLC. It's time to start replacing the finishes on that campus, the casework, kitchen, staff lounge, restrooms. In previous years, we were not paying very much portables. We've been directed to pay more attention to portables when we this wide modernization. We've included the portables scope of work. This is one of the sites that is slated to have its playground and parking lot worked on next year. If we proceed with the modernization, we would hold off on that one because we would not want to tear up the work that we've just completed. So some slight rearrangement in that portion. Chiricahua is at 25 years now, so it's eligible for OPSC funds. Also needs some finish work and be brought up to new standards. The lighting in particular at that campus will be addressed later as well. Some lighting issues. If this site is moved up in the priority list, they'll be removed from the lighting list. Sylvandale and Bridges, the middle schools, the track and fields are in need of repair. We're proposing to replace both current dirt tracks with synthetic material, the current fields with astroturf, some sort. Both of those would involve system. Santee and Chiricahua in particular, they'll have the analog clock bell speaker system. We would be proposing to completely replace that with a digital system. This would be included in Chiricahua monitor. One that's selected, create this as its own standalone project. Franklin and Santee, both of their fields were not done during playground and parking lot renovations, nor under their previous modernization. So these are the 2 items. All right, both of these sites, the item for last on the list, we're proposing to fix them now. Removal and replacement of fields. Santee does have a walking track, so we'd be reestablishing that one. Franklin does not have a walking track, so we'd be providing a new one. That field. District-wide recabling. The existing systems, as we've gone through and modernized the campuses over the years, we've included the backbone replacements as a standalone project that has not been addressed. So we're proposing to go ahead and replace some of that during some of these projects as a standalone project. And a lot of the campuses, all of the campuses have gone to 1-to-1, and the district itself is doing a AT&T fiber upgrade from 1 gigabyte to 10 gigabytes. So this sort of bridges that gap. Typically, when we did modernizations, that's when we also renovated the restrooms, but there are some sites who simply have more abuse to their restrooms than others. And so we've identified that we should create a standalone project to work on the restrooms themselves and go through and fix various things. Some only need partitions, some needs to be completely renovated top to bottom. Dahl and Chiricahua in particular, those 2 sites have hanging pendant lights. Those hanging pendant lights have become obsolete. The ballasts for them, the lights for them are just difficult to find. Maintenance is having an extremely difficult time repairing those. They've been doing it on a piece by piece basis, but eventually they're going to run out of materials and the cost for them are going to become exorbitant. So we're proposing to just go ahead and replace the lighting at both campuses to alleviate the ongoing maintenance issue with it. And then similar with the restrooms is the kitchens. Typically, we only do the kitchens when we do complete modernizations. And the use of kitchens has simply evolved since these campuses were built. and they're no longer full servicing, functioning, full cooking kitchens. They're now just warming, eating and serving kitchens. So the use of them, the Ansel systems that are in them, the way the speed lines are set up, they're just not what the children's nutrition is nowadays. So we're proposing to use that as a separate standalone project as well. Those are the 14 projects that we're sort of recommending for a reallocation.
Appreciate any questions. Record it. Old school. Record it on a piece of paper and out. Either one is fine. One, the first question is allocate.
Before we get there though, are there any questions from the board?
Thank you, President. Jason, so just help me understand when we put something in sequence in terms of priority, is the way that it works is that you have to hit, making it up, number 3, start to finish before you even touch number 4? Exactly, right? So so maybe I'm missing what kind of leverage we can do in terms of saying, like, what projects are a better fit. Let me phrase it differently. It would be hard for me to say what's a priority, like say that number 7 really could be done concurrently with our pairing projects and saying, based on, I'm making it up, the materials, the sequencing, the staffing, whatever construction forces we're using, that it makes sense to kind of cluster this group of projects higher or lower, and then kind of looking at the cost and saying, like, look, I'm getting a lot of bang for my buck. I'm able to nail 4 projects, 3 projects, and I would move those up as opposed to separating them. I mean, that sounds complicated. And it sounds here is like it's really kind of hard to get that just from a linear list.
Yeah, so the list is not based on when they would be done. The line really indicated how much money we had at the time allocated and which projects could be funded to be completed, not in order that they done. So if you notice the line from a 7 up, those are all funded, meaning that allocated funds for those projects. The ones below the line are the ones that staff are asking if we could get some of the money that had been allocated Communication Hills project to then continue to provide more project, knowing that the Communication Hills project is further out in years, and we still would have to go out to a bond to complete it. So more of the discussion is below the line, which projects would we prioritize to fund, not in terms of the order that complete them.
So 8 through 14.
Well,
Our list is
So just,
different.
I just want to make sure that everyone knows that I did change the slideshow, this particular slide. So out of the 80 million that we currently have, we could do 0 through 4. Patience Hill, Los Arboles walkway, parking, not all of it, but with money that we. If we wanted to do any other project, we would need confirmation that we allocate the funding that title of Communication Hill to do these.
Oh, okay, so the presentation we have that was sent with the board packet is,
We did change it to make it a little bit
But,
easier and
okay,
clearer to
so-
understand.
for example, number 5, CCA 2 portable addition, 500,000. On the previous slide presentation, it was funded, but now it's not funded. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
so on the previous presentation, we were gonna say, hey, let's make sure we do after we reallocate money.
Wait.
But I wanted to make sure that it was clear, like this, what we can do. If we do nothing, change nothing in the priority list, we can do 0 through.
Okay. Number 5.
Yeah.
It says it was funded already because of its previous bond money, correct?
So the terminology that I used within the previous version, funded, not the.
Doesn't mean that we've already allocated money
Exactly.
for it.
That's why I wanted to.
Okay,
For those,
on the screen up there, 1 through 4, it says fund. What does that mean?
so that means of the $80 million that we currently have available to communications hill. Wouldn't be able to do anything else right now.
Do all the board members understand? On this, don't look at the slide presentation we have in our board pack. Look at this. Are there any questions based on the screen? Yes, ma'am.
No, the order is the same. The only thing that's really changed is where the is terminology next to
Based on the order that you're recommending. It would not in this order. Funded even with allocated.
Correct.
Health
correct. Unless we were allocated
or switch.
or switch the order.
Okay.
Or then go off.
And
So
can-
only 5 through 10 equal 39.3 million.
Oh, are you talking about?
On the,
1 to
on the
10?
bottom of the list, it says items above total approximately 39.3 million. That would be the money coming out of the hill.
Oh, okay, so
budget.
you're talking about, I was sorry, I thought you were talking about the, yes, those 4 items. Page.
Where's the money from 5 through 13? Or 5 through 10, I mean.
So 5 through 10 would have to come from allocating that mark for communications still. Or going out for
Which total?
63 million. Item 0 talks about communications still. 63 million is allocated to that. Add in the 2.4, the 2.1, 2.2, and 11 million. That gets you a little bit over 8. A little bit over.
So if we take 142.6 million, subtract 63 million, that would leave what for communications hill?
So the 142 million is total for all the items, 0 through 14. Can't do all of those items. Go off on it.
Okay, what did we have allocated for hill originally? Not 140.
142.6.
So items 5 through 10, you said equals 63 million,
5 through 10, a little,
22
it's a
million.
little over 22.6. That's right.
So that would, so subtract 22.6 from 63 million, that would be how much is left for,
Correct.
So we're asking.
how much?
So we're asking, hold on a second, we're asking for 25 million in total. We want to cover all 5 through 10, plus have some room for price estimate.
To be taken from communications hill funds, which is 63. So 63 minus 25 is what's left. What is that amount? 38 million? Okay, so if the board, but we can all be on the same page. They're asking to take the communications hill budget of 63 million and take out 25 million. The 38 effort communication bill. That's what they're asking. That makes sense? That doesn't say it very clearly on there. And of course, it doesn't say it on the original. Wrong. But that's what we would need to vote on. Correct? Any questions from the board on based on or any of the project? Even the priority list.
I don't feel comfortable as a board member, right? Looking at the figures, making a decision tonight, because we're still looking at Communications Hill. And I know that a lot of things we can't talk about right now. Because those are more for closed session. So that's the discomfort level that I feel at this time in terms of going forward with any of these items at this point.
Any other comments?
Well, I just know that have a budget even outside of the communications bill funding. So I do think it's important in the least identifying whether this is the prioritization list for those priorities. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Daniel?
Yeah, the other kind of, I guess, comment that I have, and kind of along the lines of what Trustee Sanchez is saying, and just out of curiosity, I know that the economy is going in a particular direction. And over the next few years, there's two questions that I have in mind that I don't know if maybe you can come back and bring back information as to this. When you mentioned that we're going to have to probably go out and take a bond, I mean, that's going to happen probably no matter what we do. What are the prospects of that? What kind of financing we're looking at in the future for that, as opposed to the financing that we have here? Because part of it is, right, I mean, there's dollars associated with this, cost to finance this. The other thing that I'm curious to know is, and I genuinely don't know the answer to, which is, if we were to start projects now in terms of the downturn in the economy, how successful are we going to be in terms of securing materials, labor to get that to happen? Right. So it's one thing to kind of put together a list. It's another thing to actually execute the plan in light of where we're trending. And I generally don't know that. Is it more favorable that maybe the economy says, we can actually get more of this done based on where that goes? I just don't have that information.
So I'll try to answer the first question first. Partly answer question number. I'll ask those who are in the business. In terms of one, going out for a bond, we usually do surveys to see whether or not and we look to consultants on how much we'd also have to figure out what our bonding capacity, how much can we actually. So that'll help answer question number one. We probably wouldn't do that right now. Something that what's the best obvious session going on. Probably not the best time. Bond. A lot of individuals are fairly packed. Both for bonds. I want to make sure that that's in terms of number two, get the turbulence. And we get all the materials in. Supply chain has been, I don't want to say nightmare, but it's been very challenging. Usually get bids for a project, use it too late, and hard to figure out where. On top of that, obviously, doesn't possibly gonna ever go back down. So better to do it as soon as you can, get into the hopper, if you will. Work done now before it gets fortunately prepared for. I'll turn it over to Mike to.
He's correct. Some of the large ticket items, like HVAC equipment right now, is 12, 14 months out. By the time that comes, we're giving escalation change orders for contractors for the pricing of materials is gone. That did happen this year with the asphalt project. There's it increased. So the numbers that are being presented here are our estimate. As the scope is identified, as the scope's narrowed down, we then tailor the revised estimate, revised change order or cost of the project. Once we go out to bid, that's when we vet out. There are some contractors who are hurting. See that your post-bid. Jason.
Any other questions from board members? So I've just general questions, and I have a comment. And okay, I studied the previous list. Now I'm looking at a new list, so I'm completely new to me since I didn't have time to study that. But what I'm seeing is that because where it says above items above total approximately 10.3 million, including Communications Hill, that's everything above, right?
All 0 through 14.
Total 103.3 million.
0 through 10 is 103. 0 through 14, the entire list is the one.
Got it. Okay. Okay, so I don't object to us repairing and doing some modernization and improving the projects I don't object to improving our school because that money is going to good use. What I'm a little concerned about is that when we introduced bond measure R, our messaging was that we would use that bond to build a school on. And if we reallocate some of the money now to the schools that need it, they obviously do need it. And then we go back and ask for another bond, say, oh yeah, we need more bond money for communication. Still, I don't know what the voters are gonna, they think you already got money for that. Where'd that money go? So I think that we just need to be careful how we message future bond. Our track record is really good, passing bonds. So I'm not too worried about introducing another bond. I just want to make sure that we're careful messaging the future one so that we don't make the voters think that we're introducing another bond for a school that we already said we were build. As far as communications, the school and Communications Hills go, Communications Hill goes, it's going to be a few years before we start building it. So the money is just going to sit there. That what you're thinking as well. And we're, based on what we know about that, the money is just going to sit there. So I think that we're putting the money to get used by reallocating. So that's that end. Now, as far as the prioritization of the projects, I'm just going to have to ask the board to help on that if any projects that still are more important than the others. I do know that looking at one right now that Sylvandale and Bridges track and field renovation probably in greater need than some other items. So maybe we should move it up a little. That's just what I visually see, in schools. So that's just one of my recommendations. But other than that, I don't know if the board is going to support reallocating all that money for all of those projects. But I do know that maybe we should break it up and do the prioritization list first, and then we'll figure out how to reallocate the money. What does the board think? Yeah.
Well, I think we need to know how much. Because then limit the number of things that we can.
Well, we can prioritize it, but we just won't be, if we decide not to fund the entire list, we'll just go down to whatever we have the money for.
Ultimately, the ones that are higher on the list of
Fund first. And then
obviously there could be things that stop us from on it.
Right.
I agree 100% really with the board member Rudy in terms of item number 8. In terms of Sylvandale Bridges field renovation, several times, particularly with Sylvandale, that was there for back to school. And definitely if you go out there and take a look, that definitely has to be redone, that whole area back. Mess right now. Definitely would like to see that moved up know that we have items 2 and 3 in terms of the admin redesign, but truthfully, I'd rather see item number 8 bumped up and 2 and 3 bumped down if need be, because that's, you know, you have the kids out need feels, and I know the administration needs to have buildings redone, but that's something I would take a look at. Number 8 bumping up, 2 and 3 bumping down. Look at the figures; it's almost identical in terms of how much you're going to spend on those items.
I just want to clarify the Kennedy admin redesign is not the admin, like the office is really about the safety right now. For the Kennedy, you have to go through the MDF room. We've had fires there, so it's more than just the admin office. It's the flow of the students and parents for safety purposes in terms of having a one point of entry and one point of exit once the gates are.
Okay, go ahead.
Just really quick, and I think building off of that, of what Superintendent Cruz just said, what would be helpful to me would be to see which of the priorities 5 below are safety and security related. What is also missing from this list that I noticed that was prominent in its own slide was what is framed, at least in your presentation, as bathroom renovation. I don't see that as one of the numbers. Oh, it's down there?
Yes, sir.
Ah, it's number 12. Right. Very good.
Okay, so I would be comfortable moving number 8 to number 5. Because obviously Kennedy and McKinley are safety issues, have safety concerns, which I would totally support making the priority. Or even moving 2 and 3 up to 1 and 2, and then make Los Arboles number 3. And then switching number 8 and number 5.
Okay.
I don't know, what is feedback from other board members? I don't like us to do this during a board meeting, but we have to do it apparently because they need a decision.
Also going to be on board about safety. I'm also wondering in Santee with their field, and also with the paging system, does that involve, right? Because we do a lot of safety announcements through our paging system. We need a reliable paging system. So I mean, really, a lot of these do have to do with safety, and that would be when we're making. The other thing I wanted to maybe some of the rationale behind having the IT fiber being as 11 on the list, when we know how much we're relying on technologies these days, and that just continues to expand, right? A lot of our curriculum resources, our intervention programs, everything is using that. So having something that's reliable to actually be able to run the programs that we are running. I'm just curious as to why that's number 11 on this list.
I'll say this. Yeah. Factor. A lot of our fund those projects. That'll help move those projects. Outside of that, team looked at all the different that are listed here and tried most a lot of requests for all of these. Be number tough, really tough call for you as board members, as well as for staff. All equal have enough.
I thought would be priority given just
Well, I mean, I think Jason mentioned that we're already getting alternative funding for it. It's not like we're not going to do it. It will continue. So it's not, doesn't mean that we're neglecting it. There could be money available for it already. So I think we've already done some upgrades to that already and spent a lot more than 2.8 million. So on it through alternative funding. And I think we even used some COVID money for that, didn't we? I mean,
In terms of.
yeah, I thought we've already used some of the COVID money for a lot more than 2.8 million. So that's kind of minimal compared to what we've already done to upgrade the IT area. So that's why I didn't think it was really necessary. I do know that the fields at Bridges and the tracks at Bridges in Silverdale are a safety issue because there are children already getting hurt on those tracks. So I think that's part of my reason for wanting to move that up because of the safety of those recreational areas.
If I could, Board President, I think while it is important to prioritize, be able to see what are the projects that need to be considered first. I think what I'm trying to have, if the discussion about reallocation of any of the money that is currently allocated to Nation Hill is not going to consider option, really does. Then the only thing that we can do, look at what is currently funded for and redesign the ones that can be allocated that are not already in way, like Kennedy is underway, so that would not project. Otherwise, we are creating a list that's not going to be fun. Doing this just as a exercise without any steps for the team to move forward with. No money right now. The allocation, what we have. If the board is not ready to make that decision, then I'd say let's table it. We can take the feedback that you've already given us in terms of safety, things that are maybe potentially funded through other funds, and then we can come back with. But it really is going to be dependent on our ability to utilize funds that are currently allocated. Communication Hill. Because we just don't have enough funds to cover everything.
So would the board be comfortable tabling this while we consider all of the factors? Anyone?
I just want to make sure that that's not going to halt any of the progress in the meantime, because bringing that back at the end of October, that's over a month away.
We would continue with the current priority list. So, accelerate the time. Sure, but
I just want to make sure there's not going to be any unintended consequences if we don't.
Well, I don't think 1 month is going to make difference. I mean, it might, but not a lot of difference. I kind of agree with Trustee Sanchez that I'm not comfortable making a decision to reallocate money from communications build for the projects 5 through 10 yet, especially since slide has changed. Daniel.
And just to clarify, I think what I heard Superintendent Cruz say, which was in addition to tagging or at least giving a little bit more detail on what is safety related. Also, in addition to E-rate, maybe that's one bucket for technology. Perhaps there's anything else there that would qualify for what I'm going to call Plan B. Not necessarily, guaranteed that there's another funding source, but maybe there is another funding source to help us kind of see, hey, this is not only critical, but there's no real Plan B for this. This needs to get done. That just helps. It just helps to kind of see what's critical and priority.
Okay, so I think that I kind of took it out of sequence. I think that Superintendent Cruz made a good point, is if we're not going to reallocate any money, then why should we prioritize? So I will, I think that we don't have we still have a board majority quorum. So I need to get some direction from the board what we want to do with it. We want to decide to reallocate the money. If so, maybe we can work on the priority list. I don't know if we need a study session or doing something, because we normally do this at a study session, because I don't know if we're ready to prioritize this. What does the board want to do?
I mean, if the board is wanting to really dive in a little deeper with this, since we do only have one board meeting in October, we could, I could pull the board and see if there's some time, spend a couple hours just in a study session where we would be able to get a little bit more deeper, much more fluid conversation around this. So that is something that we can do. It all depends on the board and their availability.
Board member comments? Any other comments?
No, I'd be supportive of moving this forward. Because there's a lot of information here that you've given us tonight. I really appreciate that. I just want a little bit more time to mull it over, before we make a concrete decision in terms of what we move forward with. Sir, that's my opinion. Thank you.
And okay, so there's a lot of things to consider. I will accept a motion if anyone would like to make a motion. Whether we want to approve the reallocation or whether we want to not approve it or table it.
I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and table it for now. Give us some time to kind of reflect, mull it over, so on, and then be more comfortable. I like to be a comfortable board member when I make a decision of this type, and so that time would allow us to kind of, make a more concrete decision.
Okay, there's been a motion to table the action item for now. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to table the motion. Would anyone like to speak on the motion to table it or not? Yes, Mimona.
I'm just of the opinion that I'm going to make a decision based on the about communication skills, that we either not or not, but it gives staff time to prepare. So I won't be voting for the motion.
Any other comments? Seeing no other comments, we will go ahead and vote. All those in favor of tabling the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye. All those nay, please, or against, please say nay. Okay, the motion carries 3-1. Thank you. Okay, the next agenda items 6, 7, and 8 are consent items. Before we go into comments, are there any consent items that the board would like to pull under 6, 7, or 8? Seeing none, we will begin with consent items under 7. Members of the public may address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with board bylaws 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. Are there any public comments regarding any of the consent items under 7, 8, under 6, 7, or 8? Seeing none, I will accept a motion for consent items under item number 6.
Move to approve items 01 through 6.04.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve consent items 6.01 to 6.04. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimous. Consent items number 7, I will accept a motion on.
Mr. Vice President, I move to approve consent items 7.01 through 7.04.
There a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve consent items 7.01 to 7.04. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the motion passes unanimously. Consent items number 8, I will accept a motion.
I'd like to move for approval of construction items 8.01 through 8.04.
There a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve consent items 8.01 to 8.04. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimous. Personnel report 9.01. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Vice President, I move that the personnel report be approved as submitted and that the employment of the following employee be improved. Yerniera Amica Cabrera, paraeducator, SDC Kennedy, starting 9/23/22. The return from the 39-month rehire from the following employee be approved. Erica Organista Aguiar, paraeducator, SDC CCA, starting 9/14/22. And that the resignation for the following employee be approved. Maritza Mendia Munoz, noon duty supervisor, Franklin, as of 9/23/22.
There a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the personnel report with the addendum. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimous. Item 9.02, September 13th board meeting minutes. I will assume the board has already reviewed those, so I will accept a motion when you're ready.
Vice President, I move that we approve item 2, the September 13th board meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the September 13th board meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimous. Resolution number 2022-43, recognizing second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples' Day. Who introduced that? Was it you, Mima?
Yes. Vice President Rodriguez. So the second Monday of October is known as Indigenous Peoples' Day, and it's a time for us to reflect, honor the contributions, the history, you know, the legacy of Indigenous peoples that we occupy. I think it's also important as school districts, several of the areas of this resolution is the work that we do in our school, so that the history is taught, corrected, has been a long history of misinformation and, you know, not accurate ways that the history, making sure that we are promoting awareness, but also doing our best to combat inequity that continues to exist specifically for Indigenous people, both locally and across the nation. I think the other areas, particularly as a school district, you know, there's a lot of intersections when it comes to poverty and income and health and education. So areas of focus that we should continue to look at, you know, ways that we can address these issues. And I think finally, making sure that we are doing our job as educators to make this known to our students. I think that's part of why we pass resolutions, both understanding the challenges that have come historically, but also, you know, the contributions that aren't always high. Indigenous people have been doing generations. So with that, I would like to ask the board to accept the resolution.
Okay, are you placing that in form of a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve resolution 2022-43, recognizing the Monday of October as a People's Day.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do any board members have any questions or comments before we vote?
I just want to say that I'm fully supportive of the resolution. In fact, I was going to mention that in November, I thought, I just can't find it right now. There's Indigenous Peoples Days coming at the fairground. There'll be a celebration. Like it starts on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But that's coming. I'll bring the information next time to you. Give it to Superintendent so he can distribute it. You know, kind of put that down. And we're seeing more celebrations now, of course, with the COVID, you know, being behind us somewhat. And hopefully we continue seeing the celebration. Indigenous peoples, holidays, and so on. Was the case before. We were hit with this, and they were hit particularly hard on the reservation. Thank you.
Any other comments? I would like to mention that I would like to thank Board Member Afzal-Berta for bringing this resolution forward because I'm part Native American, and I remember in school, my parents told me not to say that I was part Native American, to say that I'm Mexican American, partially because back then we were taught that they weren't called Native Americans, they were called Indians, were savages and uneducated and also uncivilized. So I appreciate recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day because it also is inclusive to all Indigenous people throughout the world, not just here in California or the United States, also in from Mexico and other countries where they have an indigenous population. So thank you very much for bringing that forward. So we will now vote. All those in favor of accepting resolution number 2022-43 recognize second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day, say aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimous. Okay, resolution number 2022-44 in support of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ plus History Month. Okay, and that Board Member Afzal-Berta.
So this is also an annual resolution that we bring, but I also think it's very timely when we can continue to see, support of a particular politicized. And I think it's important for our students, staff, and community to district stands. It's also, I wanted to, highlight that this is part of law legislation right here in California with the FAIR Act, which mandates the inclusion of the contributions of the LGBT plus community. And so specifically through our social studies and curriculum. So it's important that we take that responsibility seriously and also make sure that our, educators are prepared to include those lessons in our classrooms, teaching the history as well as, the contributions of this community.
Okay, I will accept a motion on this.
Well, I'll second that.
I will accept.
I'm sorry.
I mean, someone's got to move it first.
I thought you had moved it already. Stepping the
Go ahead.
vote. Go ahead.
Okay, I move that we approve item 9.04, resolution 2022-44 in support of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and queer LGBTQ plus History Month.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board?
I just want to thank Board Member Maimuna Afzal-Berta for bringing it forward. And we are a district that's, pretty progressive in these areas. Value all of our children, or adults who work for us, so on. I think it's a resolution that's very much in line with the thinking of this. So thank you, Maimuna, for bringing it forward.
I just had a question. I think in the resolution, it says that the FAIR Act was adopted in 2022. I just know from personal experience that it's got to be older than that by a lot. I could be wrong, but I know that I presented on this for many years and it's older than 22, but that's all.
Absolutely.
So,
Oh.
so maybe we can correct that, but we'll
Yeah.
go ahead and pass the resolution with the correction. Okay. So the motion is to
So-
accept resolution number 2022-44 in support of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ+ History Month. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimous. Resolution number 9.05, resolution 2022-45, Disability Awareness Month. And is that again, board member Alberta?
Yes, there's just so many besides, especially since our next board meeting isn't till the end of October. We acknowledge these things now. So October is Disability Awareness Month, and specifically right here in Franklin-McKinley, we have approximately 9 students that we serve in special education and also in general education throughout the day. And so it's important that we continue, and our district has made really incredible strides in inclusion and making sure that students are in the least restrictive environment, that we're removing barriers wherever we can, and creating ways where all students, regardless of the way that they learn or the talents or needs that they have, that we continue to support them. And the term that I like to emphasize, right, instead of disability, but also acknowledging that, right, is twice exceptional students. So continuing to build understanding, awareness, and acceptance of all children. There's also going to be an event hosted by the City of San Jose coming up in October. So I'll make sure that information is available to everyone as well, because we're all working the same thing in terms of making sure we're building awareness. I move that we approve item 9.05, resolution 2022-45.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept resolution 2022-45, Disability Awareness Month. Any comments or questions from the board?
No,
None?
just want to thank again, Board Member Maimuna as well, Alberta, for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Then we will vote. All those in favor of 9.05, please say aye.
Aye.
And that vote carries unanimous. Resolution number 2022-46, School Administrator Week. And this is not Maimona this time. Superintendent Juan Cruz.
Yes. Thank you. The second week of October is designated as Week of the School Administrator, and we know that our administrators are an integral part of our ability to support our students and staff and families. So I bring this forward with a great pleasure and recognizing the second week of October as Week of the School Administrator. And for most of them, it's not, they don't get the week off that week. They get 2 days off that week. They come and work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, except if you are CCA, they're off this week. And I bring this forward for your consideration.
Okay, any questions, comments from the board?
Well, I just want to say that we know how much our administrators work, very, very long hours. Just like teachers and classified, but they put in some long hours. Just thankful they're part of our team here.
And I want to go those and just say that, we have a lot of new administrators this year. So I also want to thank those individuals in our district who've stepped up, continue their leadership pathway right here in our district, because it is a significant responsibility, especially as we're in this stage of wherever we are in the pandemic. But with all the challenges that we have, we're appreciative of their service and commitment.
I also would like to say a deep sense of gratitude, and not only here at the dais, but folks here at Franklin-McKinley. I work with many administrators across the state of California. It is reality. I'm often meeting with folks on the weekend and Zooming till 1 a.m, only to be back in a meeting by 7 o'clock in the morning. The dedication from these professionals it doesn't go noticed. Thing that's worth saying out. All of our folks, but today on this resolution, especially.
And I echo all the comments that were made, and I would also like to say that I really believe that the administrators are the backbone of our district, and our teachers and our classified staff are the frontline workers. And without everyone's hard work, we would not be the best district in the universe. So I truly believe that we are an incredible district, and our success is based on having all three of those components. And I fully support recognizing our administrators through School Administrator Week. So with that said, I will accept a motion on this.
I'd like to make a motion on item 9.06, resolution number 2022-46, School Administrator Week.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept resolution number 2022-46, School Administrator Week. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the vote carries unanimous. Resolution, boy, I'm already resolutioned out. A ratification of the 2022-2023 contract with Swing Education Incorporated.
It's the intent of FMSD to provide all students with an outstanding education. In order to meet the needs of our students, the district needs to utilize Swing Education Incorporated for additional para-educator services. Swing Education is a service website platform that we use to provide para-educator substitutes to school sites that are in high need of extra support. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the ratification of the 22-23 contract with Swing Education.
Any questions from or comments from the board? Yes, Mimona.
First of all, I just want to say I'm in full support of making sure that we have the support staff that we need in our classrooms and for our students. My question is because obviously I want to see the services being delivered by our own staff and our employees, right? Because there's benefits. And so I just want to know the steps that we're taking to attract and retain our own staff to fill these roles.
So in terms of retaining our staff, we are looking at that actually this week. We're working with CA to look at best practices and what our particular district looks like in comparison with other districts on this. So we're hoping to really come up with some ways to retain the current staff. This weekend, the Santa Clara County Office of Education held a classified job fair. We attended that, and we're hoping to recruit. We're looking to test a couple of the people that came to the job fair, and we're also constantly trying to recruit from outside, even of just EdJoin and typical things. So we're looking to bring in as many people as we can, but realistically, there aren't that many people applying at this point for our high need.
Thank you for going over this.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, I will accept a motion on this item.
I move that we approve item 07.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the ratification of the 2022-2023 contract with Swing Education Incorporated. All those in favor say aye.
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 And that is unanimous. Okay, item 9.08, approval of board policies as listed on the agenda. I'm not going to read them all. Janet, one, Bruce?
Yes, and this is a first read, as required. We bring it as a first read and then allow for public comment, questions from the board. And then we will bring it the second read and approval at the next board meeting. This is a follow-up from the resolution that the board passed several months ago. We have discussed this with the bargaining units, and this is being moved forward for the board for first read.
Any questions, comments from the board? Yes, ma'am.
I want to thank Superintendent Cruz and staff and everyone who's worked on crafting this language. I know in Franklin-McKinley, we really strive to provide the highest level of support to all of our employees so that they feel valued and respected. As a district, that we take into consideration needs, especially during challenging circumstances in our lives. And so pertaining to the additions to the board policy, the Franklin-McKinley School District currently provides staff with paid time off to take care of other life-changing hardships that may arise. That includes bereavement, disability leave, other circumstances. And it's important that we acknowledge other instances that may also necessitate time off. In terms of this particular language, the reality is also that our staff, especially given that teaching is a women majority profession, and our staff are directly impacted by reproductive healthcare needs, family planning, pregnancy, or pregnancy loss. And with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, we know that other states have enacted laws to remove reproductive healthcare access and freedom. And I just want to emphasize that don't think because this is happening in other states that does not have an impact on Californians' community. There's been an increased demand for reproductive healthcare access, and that means it takes longer for individuals to access the healthcare that they need when they need it. I've personally experienced 2 pregnancy losses in my lifetime. Both were while working as a teacher and both were as a board member, and I had to take time off. And it was not because I wanted to, but it was because I needed to take care of my physical, mental, and social emotional health. And one of those losses required an emergency abortion to save my life. These issues are incredibly personal and private, and yet they impact so many people. And most people won't know that I've lost a daughter and son in pregnancy, Jeanette and Domenico Berta. With my second pregnancy loss, I had to wait over a week to access the reproductive health care that I needed, even with the privileges I have to afford medical procedures and health insurance. And I want to emphasize that the reality is that these issues are personal and they impact more people than you realize. So this draft policy has been in development and we've been vetting it for close to a year now. And I know we've worked closely with staff, legal counsel, bargaining units, and appropriate community partners to ensure that the policy language is sound. And so I respectfully ask colleagues on the board to take that into consideration with any feedback that you may have, so that we can support this in the near future and that our district can become a leader in setting exemplary policies that protect and prioritize the needs of our staff.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Board? Okay, so from what I understand, we're going to accept the first reading and bring it back for the next board meeting for the second reading, correct?
That is correct. That this is not approving it at this time, but it's just accepting the first
Okay.
reading, and it will be brought back at October meeting.
So we will need a motion on the first reading, correct?
That's correct, to accept
Okay. Okay, so I will accept a motion for the first reading of the board policies.
I move that we approve the first reading of item 9.08, the approval of board policies. First,
Yeah.
For all of them.
Is there a second?
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve 9.08, the first reading of board policies as listed on the agenda. All those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and that passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to item number 10, communications from the superintendent.
Yes, thank you. Just, we've been able to have some MTSS trainings for the last 2 weeks, which is very encouraging. I'm back from being at home, and then even when we came back, able to create a release time to staff to come together and leadership teams and really moving the work forward. To be able to come into this boardroom and see teams of schools engage in very important work is encouraging. So really energizing discussions that are taking place, and knowing that we have staff covered at the schools. And so that just means that we are in a better place were a year ago for sure. And we will continue that process throughout the year. We're nearing the end of having all staff participate in the 1-day implicit bias training. And so staff will be working on now the next phase of that work as well. We have also like to report that we are recipients of T-Mobile hotspots that the IT department, along with our partners at Silicon Valley Education Foundation, through the initiative of School to Home, are making available T-Mobile hotspots that will basically be given to families for them to keep for the duration of whenever the hotspot stops working at no charge to families. Part of our digital access work with SVEF and Home to School. And the 2 schools that will be part of that is Sylvandale and Bridges. Bridges already started issuing Chromebooks to every single student, 1-to-1. They're being able to take them home and be able to do their work there. And so this will increase that access to those schools, and we'll continue to look at that district-wide. I am working with Eastside Union High School District on the proposal that I had brought to the board some time ago in regards to the community Wi-Fi access. And so expect something to come to the board in the coming months once we get those items worked out. But again, very, very much encouraged by where we are and the progress we're making, the work that we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. We'll move on to item number 11, communications from the Board of Education. Item 11.01, board member reports, and we'll start with board member Afzal-Berta.
Thank you, Board President Rodriguez. I was able to attend the Children's Moon Fest in Plaza, as well as the Vietnamese Cultural Center had a joint celebration of their 6th birthday. It's amazing that center's on Lucretia has been there for 6 years already. And also other board members, the La Raza. It's great to hear about community having,
Thank you. Board member Sanchez.
Yes, also attended the Latino Historical Society event. That was real nice. Good to see all of us there. Appropriate day on Mexican Independence Day when that was celebrated. And then a couple of quick things. There's a school board dinner coming on the 28th, 27th, or 28th. I mean, most of you got the information. Sometimes some of us can attend. I know I put in for a ticket for that event. So that's coming up later next month. And then next Saturday, Sylvandale is having a school improvement day. Some of you may want to pop in, in the morning. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, this Saturday. I'm jumping to next Saturday. Well, this Saturday, I'm saying next Saturday, this Saturday, actually, in the morning. So that's all. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Board member Martinez.
Yeah, thank you. I think I attended finally the last back to school night at Chiricahua, got delayed and it was very well attended. We had, a lot of volunteers with the food and it was a good night. I just want to staff on that. Also concur with Trustee Sanchez's comments regarding Heritage Community Center. Awesome evening, everybody there. And I could get the date wrong, but I think that there's going to be a recognition for the board on October 18th. Looking forward to being able to. And last but not least, I'm proud to say I got my flu shot and my booster.
Nice.
And my son got his flu shot and his booster. I'm working on my daughter. This was like yesterday. So, I feel great and hopefully encourage folks to get out there. I heard on the news that less than 1% of people who are eligible have already gotten in. So, I can tell you from firsthand experience that the lines were not long, at least at Kaiser. And so if you're out there listening and you're thinking about walking in, go to wherever you can, wherever you get your flu shots and boosters. You know, this we want to make sure that we're on top of staying together and not having through the.
Hey, thank you. And I had to make my appointment for that, so I couldn't walk up. Anyway, maybe he knows somebody. Anyway, well, my report is also the dinner that we all attended here, and it was at the Mexican Heritage Plaza, which was outstanding, and I even enjoyed the honorees, and because I had known most of them for a long, long. So it was good to have a reunion with a lot of the honorees. And then also attended. Oh, that was it. Okay. Okay, agenda item requests. Are there any agenda item requests? I know that we have some listed already on there coming up, which is the 2 items are on the agenda. Any additional ones? Seeing none, we'll go to. What's that?
I think we had just mentioned that we were going to bring back the order of the items, probably maybe a study session.
Well, we tabled the motion, but we're gonna fight after that. Yeah. Okay, so future business, item 12, there is none. Future meeting dates, we have our next board meeting is October 25th with a parent meeting at CCA. Then we have our board meeting on November 15th, and then our last board meeting on December 13th. We don't need to go back into closed session, so I will accept a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the meeting is now adjourned.